It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. We begin here at home as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu yesterday assured Nigerians of his administration's determination to continue to effect positive change in the lives of citizens and elevate the downtrodden by addressing the current high cost of living in the country. President Tinubu gave the assurance in his May Day address at Eagle Square, Abuja. He said his government was determined to fight corruption, which had enriched a few to the detriment of the majority of citizens. President Tinubu, whose speech was read by Minister of Labour and Employment Alhaji Maigari Dingyadi, said he recognized the peculiarities of the economic hardship facing Nigerians, which was occasioned by the struggles and challenges the workers and many Nigerians faced, and was ready to address them. Head of Civil Service of the Federation, Mrs. Didi Wilson-Jack, governors, Deputy Senate President Jibril Barau, Speaker of the House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas, among others, also hailed Nigerian workers for their efforts and contributions to national development. But organized labor again sought fresh salary adjustment for workers to help cushion the effect of the cost of living in the country. Now, in a major trip to a state beset by insecurity, President Tinubu is to embark on a 2-day visit to Katsina State. During the visit, the president will meet with key stakeholders to assess the security situation in the state. He will commission the Katsina Agricultural Mechanized Center and a 24-kilometer dual carriageway completed by Governor Diko Umar Rada. President Tinubu will also honor an invitation to attend the wedding of the governor's daughter before returning to Abuja. Now to some economic news. As President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina has issued a sobering warning on Nigeria's economic trajectory, cautioning the country risks long-term stagnation unless it confronts its chronic infrastructure and power deficits head-on. In his keynote address delivered at the 20th anniversary dinner of Chapel Hill Denim in Lagos, Adesina painted the picture of a country full of potential but hampered by policy inaction and weak execution. He urged Nigerian policymakers and investors to move boldly in reforming key sectors if the country was to reclaim its economic future. He stressed that electricity access will be pivotal in unlocking Nigeria's digital economy, attracting data centers, enabling artificial intelligence applications, and lowering costs for small and large businesses. Adesina called for structural reforms to encourage greater private investment in Nigeria's energy sector. So from Workers' Day to security issues, where we'll see the president get his boots on the ground in Katsina State, and lastly, the economy with the president of the African Development Bank.
I expected President Tinubu to be right there with the workers at the stage on Workers' Day. Other presidents that have done it in the past, I don't think there's anything wrong. I expected him to be there with them, to be able to show solidarity with them, because it's been a tough year for workers. It's been an unprecedented year, a year where inflation cropped out their lives. What they were taking on was not worth it. And I expect this government to be able to do more. I know the argument is going to be they don't have money to be able to increase wages again. But things are not well with workers. And that's why today I give kudos to governors like Okpebolo and the likes that have bumped up the wage to about 77,000 a year. And also states like Lagos that have led the way initially, even before the new minimum wage was formed. Lagos has started paying something a whole lot bigger. But President Tinubu needs to understand that inflation is destroying the fabric of families. If you are to go by the jollof rice index, how many families can truly cook a pot of jollof rice? What is the health care available for them? What is the human resource available for them? What is the welfare? What's the state of our hospitals as we speak today? An average Nigerian now spends a sizable portion of their income on food alone. What about rental? And that's why they're advocating for a living wage, because it is a tough time for the workers out there. And there's a lot of lackluster productivity across board of the country. So it's not just about coming there to make promises. It's about actually doing something and making workers feel a great sense of relief. It's hurting on them as we speak. They're being choked. It's a terrible thing to be a worker. Your take-home pay does not take you home. I always tell people out there, please, just take out time to go and look at your pension fund account and really ask yourself that what you have in your pension fund, if you were to be incapacitated and you can't walk again from today, can that actually give you a proper retirement? And those are the problems and the challenges we face. High cost of living has not been addressed. Inflation keeps rising. Secondly, as regards what Dr. Adesina said, he's very apt. You need power to be able to run an economy. There's a targeted number of economic growth, degree of economic growth you have when you have power supply. But what has been our power journey? It's been babushous failure. Till today, God knows what has happened to the Siemens deal. Till today, God knows what even happened to the many years of Obasanjo and what they claim they invested in power. Till today, what do we have to show for it? Nothing. The minister is saying over 30 billion. Where's the money going to come from? They've raised tariff for those in Band A, but you don't even have power in the first place. And how can you grow economically when you don't have power? So Dr. Akinwumi Adesina is not saying anything we do not know. He's saying what we know. But are we ready to fix the problems? Till today, you have system grid collapse everywhere. It's a repetitive thing in our ecosystem. It's very tough for those that play in the power sector. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to hide. The country, as regards the power sector today, is in a shambolic state. For a country of over 200 million people, we can't even do up to 10,000 megawatts. And this has been our lot since the 80s. What kind of country have we built? We've built a country that cannot solve its problems. And as regards President Tinubu going to Katsina to commission projects, it's a good show for him to visit the states. Katsina is beset by insecurity, parts of the north, but I also like him to visit Benue. I'd like him to visit the victims that died in Bokos. I'd like him to visit those that have lost their family members. I'd like him to visit those that still feel the pain of being attacked and their lands taken over. And I don't just want him just to visit, I also want him to find solutions. But the commander-in-chief must be there from day one. He must be on ground. President Tinubu, your words, not mine. You said you asked for this job and you were set to do it. There should be no element of pity. Good one, on your visit to Katsina, commission 24 kilometers dual carriage, a couple of other projects. I know you're also going to a couple of other states soon. But please, we also want you to go there to places people have been hurt, they've been killed. Let them have a sense of belonging that they have a president. And that's all we call for.
Okay. What are its subjects now? I get lost in some of these. Now, let me start with Akinwumi Adesina, the president of the African Development Bank. He was speaking at the 20th anniversary of Chapel Denham. I think that body, that financial institution, is associated with the Minister of Finance, Edun. So congratulations to Chapel Denham, Chapel Denham, that they are now celebrating 20 years. They've been able to make very significant contributions, both at the level of Lagos State and also in Ogun State, where they contributed, expertise and all of that. So congratulations to Chapel Hill Denham. Now to the point made by Akinwumi Adesina. I think the president of the African Development Program Bank was very correct in saying that if Nigeria does not address infrastructure problem, electricity problems, Nigeria is dealing with economic stagnation. You should know, as an economist, and someone who has dealt with this program. Most recently, there was a conference organized by the African Development Bank, led by, Dr. Adesina. I think it was in Kigali, what they call Project Mission 3000. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, Project Mission 300. Which the objective is to ensure that there is rural electrification to drive development, growth, and productivity by the year 2030. So when Dr. Adesina says that, electrification is very important, he was speaking within the context of the fact that, his AFDB is talking about electricity for Africa, 54 nations. How can they be in darkness? When you say they are the last frontier, when you say that in the present situation we have found ourselves where investors are looking for emerging markets, and some of those emerging markets are in Africa, and then you don't have electricity. So I agree with him on that point. Another point on which I agree with Dr. Adesina is about productivity. He made the point about productivity as a vehicle, as a tool for economic growth. If you have a country where there is no productivity, because artisans cannot work, vulcanizers, all these people, auto electricians, even your drivers, they will tell you that they have no electricity to charge their phones. And that's why we think that he is right in calling the attention of the Nigerian government to that, to prevent what, again, Dr. Adesina called long-term stagnation. We don't want long-term stagnation. We have a minister of power, Minister Adelabu. He came the other day, he was saying certain things about what they will do and all of that. But look, the president of the AFDB has just reminded the Ministry of Power that you need to do a lot more. It's not about rhetoric, it's about results. It's about ensuring that this environment is productive. I think those are the issues in that regard, without, reminding, Dr. Adesina that he's just stating the obvious, what we all know and what we need to be reminded of. Now I go to the issue of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu going to Katsina. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu going to Katsina, I think it's important. Why is it important? Number one, it's political. He's going to the territory of the former president to go and do a confidence show for 2 days. He will be there today, he will be there tomorrow. It's a show of confidence that, okay, we're coming into your territory, but the bigger politics that is there, it's not just about how they organize themselves in the APC. The bigger issue is about security. There's a very serious problem with security in Katsina. Katsina, the whole of that region, they've been having issues in recent times about security. The president of Nigeria going there, is also a way of saying, well, Governor Rada, we are behind you and we're willing, to support you to deal with security issues. And that will send signals to other governors in Niger, in Plateau, in Borno, within the whole of the northern region, that the president, he may have summoned a meeting of the National Security Council, but now he's following up with the talk, by walking the talk. 3, there are persons who have been saying that since President Tinubu returned from his trip to Paris and also to London, they've not seen him. Now we are going to see him. He's going to be available. So, and I hope that its managers will show those pictures to show that this is real and it is not fictional. Now, another point, they say it's a 2-day visit. This 2-day visit, I understand that there's going to be a wedding tomorrow. I don't know whose daughter is getting married. So the president is also going to Katsina, to attend the wedding and enjoy himself and have fun. But beyond all of that is the issue about agriculture. Now, in Katsina is a cotton belt, for Nigeria. I don't know whether it's from Katsina, Allah to, but there's a belt. There's a belt in that Katsina where agricultural productivity is important. And Governor Rada has been focusing on agriculture. And I think it's very important to encourage this focus on agriculture, whether it's in Katsina State or it is in Benue, where there's also some talk about agriculture, or Niger State, where we have a farmer governor, or Lagos State, where we also have a governor who is focusing on agriculture. Finally, on the issue of Labor Day, Workers' Day, International Workers' Day, yesterday, well, President Tinubu has said he is committed to the interest of workers and that he will continue to negotiate, discuss, collaborate with the labor movement. I think that's important because workers constitute the majority of the population in this country. And these are the same workers who don't get their salaries, as I said yesterday, as and when due, even if they may not need it, even if some of them have, what do they call it, side hustle, by which they survive in the same way that people have side chicks, and, But the issue is that the main issue is that the welfare of workers is important. It's very instructive to find the president of Nigeria saying that workers' welfare will be addressed and that he's committed to it. His commitment should begin with making sure that the rule of law prevails. I said yesterday that the National Minimum Wage Act is a matter of law. Those who break the law, they are criminals. The governors of the various states who are not paying the minimum wage, they are committing a crime. And the minimum that President Tinubu can do is to follow the provisions of the Constitution. Section 14, sub 2, which talks about security and welfare of Nigerians, and Section 16, which further talks about, issues affecting the welfare of workers in Nigeria, and all the international labor conventions that we have signed to. I've seen Femi Falana, SAN, writing an article on this and saying that, no, this is a categorical imperative. A categorical imperative means that it's not something that you can say you are playing politics with. We cannot play politics. We can go to Katsina and play politics, but we cannot play politics with labor affairs.
Absolutely, very well said. And just to tie everything up concerning yesterday, which was Workers' Day, May Day, Labor Day, as it's known in different parts of the world, we saw workers of the world come out in their numbers, whether it be in Cuba or in France, where unfortunately those peaceful marches that are known to take place on Labor Day turned violent. Same situation in Indonesia as well. However, here in Nigeria, there was a loud silence, a deafening silence, in that one had to ask, what is the meaning of this day in Nigeria? Of course, we know the origins of Workers' Day itself from the 1800s was all about advocating for an 8-hour work day. That's the core of it. So beyond salaries, there is the conditions that workers, restoring dignity and justice to the worker, is a big part of why we commemorate this day every single year. When we come to Nigeria, yes, we've seen the various statements. The theme in Nigeria was reclaiming the civic space amid economic hardship. But unfortunately, yesterday we didn't see a strong show of that civic space. So I suppose it is apt to speak of reclaiming it. But what happened for us to kill the civic space to begin with? Maybe that's where we need to begin the conversation, because it was not economic hardship that hampered and hindered and gagged the civic space. The NLC came out with their 20-point agenda, which included a rejection, of the tax reforms. And again, I ask myself, how did the NLC come out of their slumber now, after many months of engagement on the tax reforms, to now wake up and say they reject them? Where were they when all of the public engagement was happening concerning these tax reforms? They have a number of other things on their agenda. But for me, I just want to emphasize the fact that it seems, yes, it's important for us to focus on the wages and the minimum wage and the salary because of the economic hardship. But one thing I found was missing was the fact that we did not talk about the working conditions of the worker. How many Nigerians work 8-hour days? Let's begin with that. What are the conditions in that place? Are people entitled to their lunch breaks? Are people entitled to all the benefits that are supposed to come, that workers are entitled to? What is the right of the worker? Can you protest unfair dismissal? Are you able to get a contract in every place that you go to work? These are some of the fundamental issues that I would have hoped could have been brought to the fore yesterday, but unfortunately were not. And I hope that they can become a part of this conversation while we do continue to advocate for the implementation of a minimum wage, the creation of a living wage. Let's also think of the broader welfare of the worker. Now, when we speak of the broader welfare of the worker, we also, of course, link it to productivity, which goes to the contribution made by the president of the Africa Development Bank, Adesina, around power and energy. Now, 2024 recorded a 40% contribution of renewables to power generation globally. And we ask ourselves, this grid that we continue to focus on and obsess over, what is the obsession with it? Why are we not doing more to diversify our electricity sources? He spoke of data centers and the technology revolution and how it needs power to be able to move forward. We see that Donald Trump is going left, right, and center looking for where he can source lithium, uranium, things that are needed to generate power. So the world is going beyond what we're looking at as the traditional sources of electricity. And guess what? We have the components needed to create renewable energy sources, clean energy sources, batteries, all of that. The resources are actually available under the ground. So it's important for us to not get tired in advocating for a new look, a fresh way to tackle our issue with energy and our journey towards energy security. Last but not least, as I round up just in 30 seconds, is of course a commendable visit by the president to Katsina State. Last year, Route to Watch labeled Katsina and Borno the two states in Nigeria with the highest level of insecurity. That's according to their own security index. However, the governor does need to be commended because he budgeted about 30 billion towards security initiatives for the state. The Katsina Community Corps, Community Watch Corps was created. And he's gone ahead to also buy drones, motorcycles, Hilux trucks, several things to try and enhance community security. So I hope that there are some lessons to be learned from the president's time in Katsina State.